thank you for joining me today. This is a bit of a different webinar than I normally do. Obviously, I'm usually all about profit tactics and new strategies and those kinds of things, but I think this is just as important and probably even more important than those typical tactical webinars, as we have one of our own, Didi, who you will meet today, who is going to be running for Congress. And I know some of you have reached out and be like, well, hey, she's not from my state and this kind of stuff. But this is somebody who's a pharmacy owner, a pharmacist, a compounder, exactly, who we want more of in Congress. And going for Congress means that they can affect things on a federal level, not just at their state level. So this is critically important to every independent pharmacy owner, no matter what state you're in or where you're at. And I'm very excited to be hosting this webinar for Didi to help her get some more information out for us as a community of pharmacy owners and pharmacists and independent pharmacy people to support her. So welcome, Didi. I would love for you to also introduce yourself as well, but I want everybody to be able to get to know you and, kind of who you are and your background is. And then if anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A or in the chat, and we can definitely go through those. But I want to just give a little bit of time for Didi to explain why run for office? Isn't being a pharmacy owner crazy enough? And kind of some of the things you're looking forward to, because I am pretty darn sure you're going to get elected. So I'd like to know what you plan on doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa, especially for being so hopeful, encouraging, and supportive. I really do think that this is what pharmacy is about. I gravitated towards you on LinkedIn, and your energy is always super badass. So I love it. My name is Dr. Ndidiamaka Okpareke. Most people know me as Didi or on LinkedIn as the Queen of Compounding. I became a pharmacist in 2008. I attended the University of New Mexico College of Pharmacy. I graduated with Rokai honors. And quite frankly, when I started my career for the first maybe 9 or 10 years, I'm like, man, this is not really that great. You know, I'm like, this is not fun. People are sicker and sicker. I didn't feel like I was making much of an impact as a pharmacist. And so in 2017, I jumped into the deep ocean and I decided to start my own practice. I called it Olive Tree Compounding Pharmacy, and now I've been here for 9 years. Quite frankly, at that time, I was one of those go-getters. So I started compounding without any experience. I didn't have an MBA. I had, quite frankly, I had no business starting my own business, because I didn't even know what a balance sheet was. I didn't know P&L. I didn't know how to even figure out profit margins and what to sell and what would be the price point and who my ideal client would be. And, all these things that go into starting a business. I didn't know. I didn't take any courses. I had no clue. But I just wasn't happy with traditional pharmacy. I knew that it was on the decline. I knew that patients weren't being killed. They weren't getting better. They were staying sick. And so that's why I started what I started. But now I am kind of taking another deep dive and I'm like, let's run for Congress. But the reason is because when I look around New Mexico, right, and I'm sure a lot of us can share the same sentiment. Man, New Mexico, there are so many rural communities and all of these independent pharmacies are closing, and why are they closing? Because the industry is attacking us. We are falling into the hands of the PBMs who are making it super, super hard for us to even make a decent sized profit margin, right? Like pharmacists by nature, we are not greedy people. We are caring people. We love to provide for our community. So a lot of us don't get into the industry because we want to, be on the French Riviera. We get into the industry because we
We need
want
a
to make
bigger garage for all our Lamborghinis.
right. Right. No, we get in the industry because we truly want to help people. And so when we're shut down because we can't put bread on the table, we can't afford to lose money on filling prescriptions, that hurts us and that hurts our communities. When I started Olive Tree Compounding Pharmacy, I decided to be cash only. And a lot of people were like, how do you do compounding only, cash only? Well, I've proven that that model actually does work. Is it easy? Absolutely not. It is super, super hard, but the model works. you know? And so I want it to work for more of us. More independent pharmacies should be able to have this financial freedom to provide the care that we want to provide, you know, the things that we learned in school. We want to be able to give this knowledge and this information to our patient base, but how can we do that if we're closed? You know? So, yeah.
Yeah, you get all of our pain points beautifully because you are one of us and you've gone through that exact journey
Yeah.
that many of us have gone through. And I want to talk about what in the world prompted you to run for Congress because politics is
Yeah.
messy business, no matter what side of the aisle you are on. And so, like, what made you
Yeah.
like what was that decision journey? Because I think that's important for
Mhm.
your mission when you do get there.
Yes, yeah. No, but I think politics is super messy, especially when it's a bunch of old people who should have retired maybe 10 years ago. They got grandkids, they should be taken to their soccer games. You know, they need to be home for Christmas. Like, why are you on Capitol Hill about to fall over? You know? So that's when it gets messy. But I really do think that the younger generation, we have fresh ideas, we're very innovative, we're creative, and that's what we need to bring to our government. And not forever, right? So I don't even plan to do it forever, just for a short amount of time. But this is how it started. So I have always lived across town, and my pharmacy is in a different part of the metro area. And so the commute just got really long, long days all the time with my children. And I decided to buy a house like 30 seconds away from my pharmacy. So I purchased this home. It has a dirt road, and I'm like not happy, right? I'm like, we are in 2020, 2025. Why do I have a dirt road? So I look up my senator in the area for my district and I call him and his name is Jay Block. And I'm like, you need to find some money in the budget to pave my road. And so he's like, you know, Didi, I've seen you start your business. I leased out a gray shell. I've built two pharmacies now. And he said, I really admire what you've done. Let's sit and have coffee and we'll talk about this road. So we sit and have coffee. We don't discuss the road and we're talking about the seat for CD1 that's coming up for election. And he convinces me, you know, he kind of probes into, you know, where does Didi sit politically? And I guess my ideals aligned with his. And he said that he thought I would be great for this position. And I'm still thinking, bro, I just need money for the road, you know? And to today, like the road is still not paved. But that's truly the story. That is truly how this all started. Just being active in the community, knowing your city council, knowing your mayor, going to Chamber of Commerce meetings, meeting other business owners, being involved. And then people will kind of notice, like, you know, hey, I think Mr. Smith is good for this position, or I think Abigail can do this. And that's truly how I got here. And I have a lot of support from my local community, from the greater New Mexico community, from people in my district. But I decided to get close to home, which is pharmacy, my pharmacy community that has never ever, you know, like, you know, pushed me away or like I've always felt so much love amongst the pharmacy community, you know, and so as I rally support for my campaign, I'm like, where best to get support than from the people that I know, the people who I've been in this industry with for almost 20 years now.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
important part of your political origin story is the fact that you have no political ambition. It wasn't like some grand plan of like I'm going to do this and then I'm going
No.
to, you know, like it is nothing about that. And so I actually like that story. I like that you were
Yeah.
like thrust into it because it that's what I think politics should be. I think to your point earlier, like
Yeah.
people make it this lifelong career and then they lose
Yeah.
touch with the
Yeah.
real world,
Yeah.
you know, and it should be something that only should be temporary where people
Mhm.
cycle through and we get fresh ideas and fresh blood and all those kinds of things. So I actually love that you had absolutely zero political ambition.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
And
like, what's a filibuster?
yeah,
What is
exactly. And
that?
so I like non-political people in politics. I think that
Yeah.
makes politics much, much better. So
Yeah.
tell everybody, so Congress, like for those of us who, you know, aren't up on all of our, you know, structure,
Yeah.
what kind of position will that put you in to be
Yes.
able to like affect change for all the rest of us like in our industry?
Yeah, I think a lot of us don't understand that the people who are making decisions about pharmacy and about healthcare have absolutely no clue what pharmacy is, like who we are as people, the struggles that we go through, the highs and the lows, the peaks and the valleys, they have no clue, let alone to even own a pharmacy, right? So to practice as a pharmacist is one thing, but then to own a pharmacy and have to make it day to day, a lot of the people sitting in those seats representing each and every one of our districts have no idea how we make this work. They don't know the interaction between us and the client, the patient, the customer. They have no clue. They don't know 10,000 units of vitamin D, what it does to the body. They have no clue, right? But they are making the policies that make it better or harder, that make it doable or just, not even feasible for us to survive as pharmacists. So, I think maybe 1 in 3 adults can even name the different branches of government, right? But
Right.
when it comes to Congress, we have two sides. We have the Senate and then we have the House. We have 2 senators per state. We have 435 representatives, depending on your population size in your state. That determines how many districts you have. So in New Mexico, we have 3 districts. I am in CD1 and I'm running to represent CD1. So in CD1, that's the majority of the population. That's where we have Albuquerque, we have Bernalillo County, we have Sandoval County. So a lot of people are concentrated in CD1. But basically, if I win, I represent all 400,000 people in CD1 or whatever the number is. It's a massive number. But basically, my job would be to win, number one, and then be assigned to committees. And you sit on these committees or these subcommittees, and that determines what you're discussing. So I would pray that I would be assigned to the Energy and Commerce Committee because that is where healthcare, that is basically the committee that healthcare falls under, to sit and make decisions about PBMs or about, insurance companies and how they affect the prices of products and services that our clients and our patients are subject to. So that's really my goal, to sit on a committee that has a high influence on the way healthcare is in our nation.
Yeah, I always thought it was weird that it was in under that committee because it makes, I don't know, logical sense, but I guess not much in the government is logical.
Yeah, it's
Um,
Congress.
and so tell everybody a little bit, like if you win, like how long is your term?
Yeah,
What is, just give a little bit of the basics of like what that future kind of holds for you.
mhm.
Maybe even what kind of chance you might think of getting on that committee because I want to give people hope, but not like false
Yeah.
hope. I want them to really understand like what it's gonna be like for you, practicing as a set,
Yeah.
as in Congress, as a person who is doing that. But just give a little bit of like what those next few years might look like.
Yeah, so this seat is up for election every 2 years. So anyone who sits on the House side of Congress, it's every 2 years. So basically you get in and you're already campaigning for your next term, which would be every 2 years. As a senator, though, I believe those are every 6 year
Yeah,
positions.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think those are 6 years.
So every 2 years, so it's constantly being before the people who support you so that they know of the work that you're doing, so it's not just sitting in the seat, but you're proposing bills, and that's why I stay very close to like Lisa. I stay close to NCPA, I'm sorry, APC, the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding, because you guys are the people that I'm going to go to say, hey, Lisa, right now we're talking about XYZ in this committee. What are some ideas? Can we jump on a webinar so I can meet other pharmacy owners and they can tell me, Didi, write this in the bill. This is going to make XYZ difference in the way that we practice independent pharmacy or pharmacy in general. So me being very close to the industry is important because let's say I was a lawyer and I knew nothing about pharmacy and I'm running for this. Why would I come to a pharmacy, community to get information when it would just be information? I wouldn't feel it deep down in my soul because I'm
Right.
not a
Yep.
pharmacist. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of work. It's definitely going to be a whole different trajectory than practicing pharmacy on a daily basis. There is going to be a lot of stuff that I just have. I don't know what they talking about on Capitol Hill, but you know. But I'm determined to really learn about how do we make policy that is good for the pharmacy industry? How do we do that? We're being swallowed by big pharma. How do we stop that from happening?
I
Mhm.
know. I think we all have a wish list, and
Yeah.
when you do win, I think that's what we'll do is we'll hold a little campaign and we'll create a
Yes.
wish list for you because
Yeah.
I know some people are all about provider status with Medicare,
Yeah.
getting rid of some of the patchwork, scope of practice things, and then
Yeah.
obviously there's the PBMs and that stuff. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's certainly no end if you could wave a magic wand, the
Yeah.
types of wishes that we have. Steve Young posted a question.
Hmm.
What are you views? I'm sorry. What are your views on Break Up Big Medicine Act? I'm not even familiar with that, so I can't
Yeah.
provide any context. I'm not sure if you are.
Yeah. Steve,
Uh,
I'm so sorry, Steve. Send me an email so
yeah,
we can
I
figure
was like,
that out.
I'm not even sure what that is. So, I also I don't. I mean, I kind of follow politics, but I also want to say I don't. But
Yeah.
I've also been in my summit bubble for the last little bit, so it's
Yeah.
something coming
But
up.
the funny thing, Lisa, is that a lot of these policies that shape pharmacy and healthcare, how many do we actually hear about?
I
You
know.
know?
No, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
We don't hear about
100%.
them. Like that's not going to make the news. You need to be like a Jasmine Crockett to make the news. And then like, are you really even talking about anything? You
Right.
know?
No, you're absolutely right. And there's so many things. I mean, obviously with like Trump RX and things like that, like
Hmm.
you get the splashes of that, and that's what people pay
Right.
attention to. But it's usually that stuff that doesn't really. I mean, yes,
Right.
that's some of that stuff has changed, but it's the a bunch of little bills of all the other
Right.
little things that happen in
Right.
there.
Or like the latest thing with RFK going on Joe Rogan and talking about
I
peptides,
know,
you
I
know? And like
know.
everyone's like, oh, peptides. And I'm just like, okay, but where did that actually go in terms of policy?
It
Where did
hasn't
it
yet.
go? Exactly.
If
Exactly.
RFK would have come on my podcast, I would have made sure to get like a date commitment.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Steve said he'll DM us.
Okay.
And then Una said it makes so much sense now how you just explained how the messaging
Yep.
moves from our day to day hoops to like the political arena. Like it makes much more sense. So Steve's message back. Do you align with Mark Cuban's views on breaking up PBMs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
I can't say I know for sure. I mean, I listen to a lot of Mark Cuban. He's here locally.
Yeah.
To me, in general, he's pretty spot on about the PBMs, and
Mhm.
he's done a lot of good for raising awareness about some things. Doesn't mean I agree maybe 100% on everything that comes out, but I think for the most part, anything that breaks up
Yeah.
people, you know.
Yeah, I think, one of our grounding principles as Americans is transparency, right? Like transparency comes through every single right that we have as Americans, beginning with the First Amendment right, like the freedom of speech, right? So I just love how Mark Cuban came on the scene and he's like, actually, this only costs 10 cents. So I'm going to charge you 20 cents. So at least I can put bread on the table, you know? And I saw that even as a pharmacy owner, when I saw profit margins and compounding, I'm like, oh my goodness, without gouging the client, you can
Yep.
still make a hefty dollar. The client won't feel like, you've just drowned me. But then you can put bread on the table and your business can be profitable and you can keep going, you know? But I think at the core of a lot of these issues in healthcare in America is transparency. Like the fact that you can go to Turkey and have a whole Botox session for $1.36, and then you come here and it's 1,000 something. Why? You know?
Yep.
Why? And I heard this argument about, yeah, but we in America, we pay for all the research and development. You know what? We'll spread that across the world.
we we are in a global market. We
Yeah,
should globally take care of those costs. Absolutely,
right.
100%.
Yeah.
Um, let me see if there's any. Okay, there wasn't any more questions. Uh,
Hmm.
how can somebody help you the most right now?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who will watch this recording, who are on live, but how can we best support you? Just,
Hmm.
I want to support you as a friend, as a pharmacy owner, as a fellow compounder. I think getting more of those people in Congress is always a winning. So like, how's the
Yeah.
best way that any of us can help you?
Well, I think the first thing is just connect with me. This pharmacy is not a political, issue. It's not on one side or the other. Really, all of us can come to the table despite our political differences, and we can really make pharmacy work. So connect with me first. If we're not connected, let's get connected on LinkedIn. I'm frequently on LinkedIn. Like you can even just call my pharmacy. Hey, can I talk to Didi? I really want to remain this personable person, especially to the community that's near and dear to my heart. I don't want to ever be so far removed that I can't be reached. So just staying in contact with me is number one. Number two, I do have a website, www.didiforcongress.com, Didifor congress.com. It has all of, well, some of my ideas and what I think. Now, the coolest thing is this. I don't have a primary. So think of this newcomer to the scene, right? No political background, no political experience. Like I'm telling you, I have to like look stuff up. Like, what does this mean? And so we go to pre-primary convention and I knock my opponent off the ballot. Like, I have so much support from the delegates from all of the counties inside of my district that I knock this guy off the ballot. I got 86% of the vote. And I'm just brand new. Everyone gets on stage and they're talking about what they're going to do about education and this and that. And I'm talking about, let me tell you how beautiful New Mexico is, and people are just loving it. So I have no primary. So any investment into my campaign is going right down to November midterms. And the ball is rolling. I think a lot of people as a newcomer, when they see that you have a primary, they don't want to support you until they see how you do in the primaries. But now that people know I don't have a primary, the funds are coming in. People are really supporting the campaign. What do we use the funds for? Well, obviously, in order to run an effective campaign that is going to get you to victory, you need money. How and why? You need money to reach the voters. You need money to knock on doors. You need money to get your name out there. I have name recognition maybe in the pharmacy community, but how many people in my district actually know me so that when they go to vote, they vote for me? That's what the money is being used for. So whatever donations can pour in for the campaign, I would gladly appreciate it. And I always tell people, if you don't have $5 to donate, you better be praying for me. Like I'll take a prayer. You know, a prayer is as good as any amount of money. So prayers, money, keep in contact with me. That's really what I really need for this campaign to move forward.
I think also I will add spreading the word.
Yeah.
Just those of us in our pharmacy industry, we always think of ourselves as small, but we are small and mighty, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of us. And it
Oh yeah.
just sharing your content, like you said, follow you on LinkedIn, connect
Hmm.
with you, you're posting stuff, sharing that information.
Hmm.
We all have different associations, different groups, different
Hmm.
people that we're a part of, and so just helping to spread that word, I think is a minimum thing that we can all do. We can always hit that share button kind of thing.
Yes.
Steve Rodriguez wants to know, who are you running against?
Hmm.
New Mexico he said, is a very blue state. Can a Republican win in your district?
Yes, man, that's such a good question, Steve. Steve is my buddy. Uh, thank you so much for joining, Steve. But yeah, so New Mexico does look blue. It really does look blue. But the amazing thing about New Mexico is when you go outside of Bernalillo and half of Sandoval County, which are the most populated counties, and they're both in my district, it is very red. Like we're talking ranchers, cowboys, farmers, hey Didi, what you doing today? Like they are very, very red. New Mexico has a ton of oil. We have a huge oil and gas industry. We're the second largest oil producer in the United States.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
yes, and those oil basins are in red districts. And so there are a lot of people in New Mexico who look at our state and they're like, why don't we look like Texas? Why are we not economically as sound as Texas? Why is our educational system failing? Why do we have the worst healthcare system in the United States? Why do we still rely on 73 cents on the dollar from the federal government when we have two large oil basins and $75 billion in reserves? Why? So these are some of the things that make me and my team believe when we look at the numbers, and it's not just Didi coming out here and saying, hey, you guys support me. I'm running for Congress. It's no, on the back end, we're looking at numbers, right? We're looking at polls. We're looking at each precinct. We're breaking it down by precinct to figure out who can we get to open up their minds and not just vote along party lines, but vote using wisdom and an understanding of what needs to happen in our state.
No, I think that's smart. And I think as somebody who, I tend to lean more Republican. And I've been in California and I've been in those places where
Yeah.
it appears to be blue, like in Colorado or California, but when you actually know it, it's
Yep.
very small pockets, and then like everything else is red.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, I've supported people in different areas of government on both sides of the aisle because I
Hmm.
actually like what they say.
Yep.
It didn't really matter so much, the color they represented per se, but it was like I liked what they were standing for and what they were fighting
Yep.
for. And I think in our world in pharmacy, we have everybody and their brother against us and not many people for us.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
the more that we can get somebody in there to change healthcare from the inside out, to
Mhm.
help change our industry from the inside out, I am happy to get behind in any way, shape, or form. And
Yeah. Yeah.
he says you have his prayers and he loves
Yes.
being enthusiasm.
Thank
So
you so
uh,
much. Thank you.
yes, I
Yeah.
am pulling for Didi too. Steve says he's pulling for you. So
Yes. Thank
uh,
you.
I I I am so hopeful for this. Like,
Yeah.
girl, you've got this. You've always had
Yeah.
that spark. You've always had that energy.
Yeah.
We will share your ddforcongress.com. I
Okay.
did share that screen up on this a bit while you were talking. I also
Mhm.
put it in the chat. But everybody who's registered, because I know a lot of people registered and couldn't attend live because we told them
Yes.
we'll send them the recording.
Okay.
And that way they can learn a little bit more about you, a little bit more about
Yes.
your history.
Yes.
And to me, you're that perfect example of somebody coming in,
Thank you.
original family, not from America, coming in and just
Yeah.
owning it. Like you've
Yep.
taken advantage of every opportunity and you've become this amazing businesswoman, mom,
Thank
in the
you.
toughest industry out there, which is independent pharmacy. And
Yeah.
you're rocking it. So
Yeah. Thank
um,
you, Lisa. Thank
I
you.
appreciate you
Yeah.
stepping out of your normal life to go into politics because
Yeah.
that is not an easy
No.
decision. And so I applaud you for doing that because there's 100 of us that are registered for this webinar that didn't do that.
Right,
So
right, right. But you
I,
know
I
what, Lisa, you now
I know
let's
you're trying
let's
to convince me, but
I emailed you and I said, you know what, I was sitting here thinking you should run for Congress too.
oh,
Yeah. No, but I
I
mean, in all full transparency, like this is why these positions were created, you know,
I know.
just for
I
us,
firmly
just
believe that. I
yeah,
really
you
do.
know, just
Firmly
for
believe that.
regular people to say, I've had these discussions at my dinner table. This doesn't look great for my children, for the future of my children. So I'm going to run for this position, impact some change, and then I can just retreat back to my old life. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Which is great. It's great right now. So I'm not going to Congress because it's going to be amazing. It's going to be hard, but someone has to do it, you know?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any last words for everybody on or anybody listening to the recording before we let everybody get back to their Wednesday?
Oh, who knows that she's a dear sister of mine. That girl, you need to run for Congress too. Yes, yes.
I know. Presidential run in 2032.
Oh, heck no. Oh, no.
Now we're talking
Absolutely
dirty.
not.
Now we're getting down. Now we're getting down.
Oh, no way. No way. Maybe the AI version of me, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, there you go.
yeah.
There you go. We can do it together. See, I need a
Yeah.
friend.
When I launched my campaign, people thought I was AI. Like people was like, "Oh, she's not real. She's not a real person." And I'm like, "Okay."
I can verify that she is real.
Yes,
She
I'm
has
real.
physically been in my presence.
Yes, 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 definitely. Yeah. Well,
All
thank
righty.
you so much.
I will give you the last words before we close this out, and then we'll make sure to share all of your website information with everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, my name is Didi, Dr. Ndidiamaka Okpareke. You guys, I am the American dream, and the American dream is slowly slipping away. If people like me and you don't step up to the plate and do the work that needs to be done, America is going to be a different place, in just a few years from now. And I bet none of us want that. We all have children, and we need to fight to preserve the American future for our American children. And so if you support my campaign, not just for pharmacy, but for America, for our country on a whole, I would gladly appreciate it. It's DidiForCongress.com.
Awesome. Thank you, my dear. And
Thank you.
I'm here to help you in any way, shape, or form. I am here to support you. And New Mexico is a short flight away. So.
Yes. Yeah. Please come visit.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'll let everybody get back to their Wednesday, and we'll talk again next time, everybody.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.